What if Issei was cat like Koneko and Koruka and got them pregnant? The raiding game arena shimmered with residual magic as Issei Haida pushed himself off the scorched ground, his body aching from the latest attack. Blood trickled from a cut above his eyebrow, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. This match against a mid-tier Devil Noble's peerage was supposed to be routine practice, a chance for Rias Gremry's peerage to test their coordination and growth. It wasn't going well. Issei, fall back. Rias's voice crackled through the communication spell. You're overextended, but Issei couldn't fall back. Koneko Tuju, the petite powerhouse of their group, was pinned down by 3 enemy pieces 30 yards away. He could see her white hair matted with dirt, her small frame struggling against overwhelming force despite her superhuman strength. His instincts screamed at him to reach her, to protect her. When had those instincts become so intense? Boost! 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 The familiar voice of Drake, the Red Dragon Emperor residing in his sacred gear, echoed through his mind as green light enveloped his left arm. Power surged through him, multiplicative and glorious, but it wasn't enough. He'd already used too many boosts. His body was reaching its limit. I can't let them hurt her. The thought burned through him with unusual intensity. Sure, Koneko was his friend, his comrade, his precious Kohai. He'd always felt protective of her. But this feeling was different, deeper, more primal. It clawed at his chest like a living thing, demanding he act regardless of the cost. One of the enemy pawns landed a devastating kick to Issei's midsection, sending him flying backward. He crashed through a conjured stone wall, agony exploding through his torso. Through blurring vision, he saw the enemy closing in on Koneko, saw her defiant face as she prepared for an attack she probably couldn't withstand. No. Something inside Issei snapped, or perhaps it was more accurate to say something awakened. Heat blooded through his veins, different from Drake's dragon power. This was older, wilder, coming from somewhere deep in his genetic memory that he'd never known existed. His senses suddenly sharpened to an almost painful degree. He could smell everything: the ozone from magic spells, the sweat of combatants, the fear and determination mixed in the air, and underneath it all, Koneko's distinct scent of vanilla, and something indefinably her. Partner, what's happening to you? Drake's voice held uncharacteristic alarm. Your energy signature is changing. Issei tried to respond, but the words died in his throat as agony and ecstasy warred through his body. His bones ached, his muscles spasmed, and then he felt them emerge. Cat ears sprouted from his head, covered in soft brown fur that matched his hair. A tail burst from the base of his spine, long and expressive. His fingernails lengthened into retractable claws, and his canines sharpened into proper fangs. Most dramatically, a new energy source bloomed within him, not demonic power from his reincarnation as a devil, not the draconic might of the boosted gear, but something else entirely. Yuki. The spiritual energy of yokai. What the hell? The enemy knight who'd been approaching stopped dead in his tracks, staring at Issei's transformation with wide eyes. Issei didn't give him time to process. Moving on pure instinct, he launched forward with speed that surprised even himself. His new tail whipped behind him for balance as he closed the distance in a heartbeat. His clawed hand raked across the knight's defense, shredding through magical barriers like tissue paper. The knight barely had time to scream before he dissolved into light, retired from the game. The other enemy pieces turned toward this new threat, but Issei was already moving. His enhanced senses tracked their positions perfectly. He could hear their heartbeats, smell their fear, feel the displaced air from their movements. It was overwhelming and intoxicating. He tore through them like a natural disaster, his new claws and enhanced physical abilities combining with his boosted gear to devastating effect. The enemy queen tried to engage him, but Issei ducked under her sword strike with feline grace he never possessed before, coming up inside her guard to deliver a palm strike enhanced with both demonic power and Yuki. In less than 2 minutes, he'd eliminated 6 enemy pieces and reached Koneko's position. Senpai? Koneko's golden eyes were enormous as she stared at him, her small nose twitching. You smell different. Issei opened his mouth to respond, but the words came out wrong, distorted. Are you hurt? His voice carried an odd purring quality that made him freeze. What was happening to his body? I'm fine, Koneko said slowly, still staring at his new features. Her eyes lingered on his cat ears, which twitched involuntarily. What are you? Before Issei could attempt an answer, Rias's voice boomed across the arena. Game over. Rias Gremry's peerage wins by complete elimination. The rating game arena dissolved, returning them to the preparation room in the Gremry estate. The moment they materialized, everyone's attention locked onto Issei. Rias, Akino, Kiba, Gasper, and even Asia stared at him with varying expressions of shock. Issei, Rias said carefully, her blue-green eyes studying his new features with intense focus. What exactly just happened out there? I don't know. Issei's tail lashed behind him anxiously, betraying his agitation. 1 second I'm getting my ass kicked, the next I feel this heat inside me, and then, he gestured at his ears and tail helplessly. This, how intriguing, Akino purred, moving closer to examine him. You've awakened yokai traits, it seems. Specifically Nikomata characteristics. Her finger reached out to touch one of his ears. Issei's new ears flattened against his head and he jerked away from her touch, a low growl rumbling from his chest before he could stop it. Akino's eyes widened in surprise and she withdrew her hand. Sorry, Issei muttered, embarrassed by his own reaction. I didn't mean to do that. My body just moved on its own. Territorial response, Koneko said quietly. She'd been silent since their arrival, studying Issei with an expression he couldn't quite read. Typical for Nikomata who haven't learned control yet. But how is this possible? Kiba asked the question everyone was thinking. Issei was human before his reincarnation as a devil. There was no indication of yokai heritage. Hidden bloodlines can skip generations, Rias mused, tapping her chin thoughtfully. Or perhaps the trauma of his transformation into a devil awakened dormant genes. It's rare, but not unheard of. She focused on Issei again. How do you feel? Any pain? Disorientation? Everything's too loud and too bright and too smelly, Issei admitted, his enhanced senses still overwhelming him. But also, right? Like something that should have always been there finally clicked into place. He paused, realizing something. And I can feel this new energy inside me. It's different from my devil power or Drake's boost. That would be Yuki, Koneko confirmed. The spiritual energy that Nikomata and other yokai use. She stood and approached him slowly, her movements careful. May I? Issei nodded, not entirely sure what she was asking permission for but trusting her implicitly. Koneko reached up and gently touched one of his ears. Unlike when Akino had tried, Issei felt no urge to pull away. Instead, a strange sense of calm washed through him at her touch. Your fur is soft, Koneko said quietly, a hint of pink coloring her normally stoic face. And your scent has changed. You smell like... She trailed off, seeming uncertain how to continue. Like what? Issei prompted. Like one of us. The new voice came from behind them, making everyone spin around. Standing in the doorway was a woman who looked like an older, more developed version of Koneko. She had the same white hair, though hers was longer and wilder. The same golden eyes, though hers gleamed with mischief and something darker. And most notably, she had a pair of white cat ears atop her head, and 2 luxurious tails swaying behind her. Kuroka, Koneko hissed, her body tensing immediately. Her fists clenched, and Issei could sense the surge of senjutsu and Yuki building within her small frame. Hello, Chiron, Kuroka purred, using Kaneko's birth name. Or should I say Koneko now? I've been watching from afar, little sister. Imagine my surprise when I sensed the new Nikomata signature blooming during your raiding game. Her amber eyes fixed on Issei with predatory interest. And such a delicious signature it is. How did you get in here? Rias demanded, her power of destruction crackling around her hands. This is Gremry territory. Oh please, I've been sneaking in and out of devil territories for years, Kuroka said dismissively. Besides, I come in peace. Mostly. She took a step toward Issei, her hips swaying. I just wanted to meet the new kitten who's joined our little family. Issei found himself frozen as Kuroka approached. Her presence was overwhelming raw power and sensuality combined with an edge of danger that should have terrified him. But underneath it all, he could sense something else. Loneliness. Longing. The same isolation he felt emanating from Koneko whenever she thought no one was watching. "You're Kaneko's sister," Issei said, the pieces clicking together. He'd heard the story how Kuroka had killed her master and fled, becoming a stray devil and one of the most wanted criminals in the underworld. But looking at her now, sensing the complex emotions roiling beneath her confident exterior, he wondered if there was more to the story. "Smart kitten," Kuroka praised, now standing directly in front of him. She was taller than Koneko, her figure far more voluptuous, and she moved with the confidence of a predator who'd never met anything she couldn't defeat or seduce. "And now you're one of us too, it seems. Tell me, how does it feel?" "The awakening? Overwhelming," Issei admitted honestly. "Everything is too much." "It gets easier," Kuroka assured him. Her hand reached up toward his face and Issei tensed, but she simply ran one finger along his jawline, her touch feather-light. "You'll learn to control it, though I'd be happy to help with that if you'd like." "Get away from him!" Koneko suddenly appeared between them, shoving Kuroka's hand away. "You don't get to touch him!" Kuroka's eyebrows rose and a slow, knowing smile spread across her face. My, Chiron. Are you being protective? How interesting." Her smile widened. "You've imprinted on him, haven't you?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Koneko said, but Issei could see the pink spreading across her cheeks. "Liar," Kuroka said affectionately. "I can smell it on both of you. The beginnings of a bond." She leaned around Koneko to address Issei directly. "Has she been acting differently around you lately? More possessive? Following you around even when she doesn't need to?" Issei thought about it, and realized Kuroka was right. Over the past few weeks, Koneko had been staying closer to him during missions, seeking him out during breaks, even showing up at his house occasionally with snacks to share. He'd assumed she was just being friendly, but looking back with his new awareness. "Imprinting is a Nikomata thing," Koneko said quietly, not meeting anyone's eyes. "It happens sometimes when we find someone compatible. Someone who feels right. And now that Issei's awakened his own Nikomata blood, that bond is going to intensify," Kuroka continued, her tone becoming more serious. "For both of you. Your instincts will push you together. You'll need to be careful about that, especially during—" She trailed off, glancing at the others in the room. "During what?" Rias demanded, her tone making clear she expected a full answer. Kuroka sighed. "During mating season. Which, for Nikomata, happens to be coming up in about 2 months. The room exploded with reactions. Asia gasped and turned bright red. Akino's grin became absolutely wicked. Kiba coughed awkwardly. Gasper squeaked and tried to hide in his box. And Rias looked like she was calculating a dozen different political ramifications at once. "Mating season," Rias repeated slowly. "Explain." "It's exactly what it sounds like," Kuroka said with a shrug. "Nikomata biology goes into overdrive once a year. Heightened aggression, territorial behavior, and an overwhelming drive to, well, mate. For younger Nikomata who haven't learned control, it can be quite overwhelming." Her eyes drifted between Issei and Koneko. "And for newly awakened Nikomata who've already begun imprinting, it's going to be intense. Can it be suppressed?" Rias asked. "Controlled? To an extent," Kuroka allowed. "With training and discipline. But fighting instincts that strong is difficult and potentially dangerous. Nikomata who try to completely suppress their nature often end up losing control violently." She looked at Issei seriously. "You're going to need guidance, kitten. Someone who knows what you're going through and can help you navigate it." "Absolutely not," Koneko said firmly. "You're not getting your claws into Senpai." "Chiron, don't be selfish," Kuroka chided. "I'm the only other Nikomata around who can actually teach him proper control. Unless you've suddenly become an expert on male Nikomata biology?" When Koneko didn't answer, Kuroka nodded. "That's what I thought. Like it or not, little sister, we're going to be seeing a lot more of each other." Issei's head was spinning. This was too much information too fast. He'd gone from human to devil, which had been overwhelming enough. Now he was apparently part Nikomata too, with instincts and needs he didn't understand, and somehow Koneko had been imprinting on him, whatever that meant. And now there was a mating season to worry about. "I need air," Issei said suddenly. Without waiting for permission, he headed for the door, his new tail lashing in agitation behind him. Issei, wait, Rhea started, but he was already gone, using his newfound speed to put distance between himself and the overwhelming situation. He found himself on one of the Gremory estate's many balconies, staring out at the artificial sky of the underworld. The view should have been calming, but his enhanced senses kept distracting him. He could hear conversations from buildings hundreds of yards away, could smell the distinct scents of at least 20 different people in the estate, could feel every subtle shift in the air. It's a lot, isn't it? Issei turned to find Koneko standing in the doorway. She'd followed him, of course. Part of him wanted privacy to process everything, but another part, a part that seemed to be growing stronger by the minute, was glad she was there. Yeah, he admitted. Everything's different now. I'm different. Koneko walked over and stood beside him, their shoulders almost touching. You're still you, senpai. Just more. Am I though? Issei looked down at his clawed hands. I've got cat ears and a tail now. I growled at Akino-san without meaning to. I can smell everyone and everything, and it's driving me crazy. He paused. And apparently you've been imprinting on me, which sounds serious, and I don't even know what it means. Koneko was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than usual. Imprinting is when a Nikomata finds someone they're compatible with, someone whose presence feels right on an instinctual level. It doesn't happen with just anyone. She turned to look at him, her golden eyes reflecting the artificial starlight. I didn't plan for it to happen. I didn't even realize it was happening at first. But over time, I found myself wanting to be near you more. Wanting to make sure you were safe. Getting jealous when other girls got too close. Jealous? Issei blinked. He thought back to some of Kaneko's reactions lately, the way she glared at Asia when the blonde girl had hugged him. How she always positioned herself between him and Akino during meetings, the times she'd actually hissed when one of the female students had asked him out. Oh. That kind of jealous. I know it's probably weird and uncomfortable for you, Koneko continued, a hint of vulnerability showing through her usual stoic mask. I didn't mean to make things complicated, but now that you've awakened your own Nikomata blood, the bond is going to get stronger. I can already feel it. Can you? Issei focused inward, paying attention to his new instincts. And yes, there it was, a pull toward Koneko that had nothing to do with his usual perverted thoughts, though those were still very much present. It was deeper, more fundamental. Being near her felt right in a way he couldn't fully articulate. Yeah, he said quietly. I feel it. They stood in silence for a while, both processing the new dynamic between them. Finally Issei spoke again. What does this mean for us? The imprinting? I don't know, Koneko admitted. I've never let it progress this far before. Usually I suppress it. But with you. She trailed off, seeming uncertain how to continue. But with me, you don't want to suppress it? Issei finished. Koneko nodded, still not meeting his eyes. Is that okay? Issei considered the question seriously. His feelings for Koneko had always been complicated. He cared about her deeply, admired her strength, was endlessly charmed by her stoic demeanor that occasionally cracked to reveal the sweet girl underneath. He told himself it was just friendship, just a natural affection between teammates. But if he was honest with himself... Yeah, he said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. It's okay. More than okay, actually. Koneko's eyes widened and she finally looked directly at him. Really? Really? Issei smiled, his new cat ears perking up. I mean, this is all new and confusing and kind of terrifying. But if I have to go through it, I'm glad it's with you. A small, genuine smile crossed Koneko's face, rare and precious. She reached up and gently touched one of his ears again, her expression soft. Your ears are really cute, senpai. Thanks, Issei said, feeling his face heat up. Yours have always been cute too. I just never got to tell you that before. They shared a moment of comfortable silence, standing close enough that their arms brushed. The bond between them hummed with contentment, and for the first time since his transformation, Issei felt some of his anxiety ease. We should probably go back, Koneko said eventually. Bucho will be worried, and Kuroka probably hasn't left yet, Issei added. We should figure out what to do about her offer to help. Kaniko's expression darkened slightly at the mention of her sister, but she nodded. One-sama, she's dangerous. But she's not wrong about you needing training. Male Nikomata are rare, and their awakening can be unpredictable. Do you think we can trust her? Issei asked. No, Koneko said bluntly. But I think we might need her anyway. They headed back to the meeting room together, their steps unconsciously synchronizing. When they arrived, they found the situation largely unchanged. Kuroka was lounging on one of the sofas looking entirely too comfortable, while Rias questioned her about Nikomata biology and instincts. The others were scattered around the room, clearly uncomfortable with the wanted criminal's presence but unable to do anything about it while she was cooperating. Ah, the kittens return, Kuroka purred, her eyes tracking their entrance with predatory interest. Looking much more composed now. Have a nice chat? What do you want, Kuroka? Koneko asked bluntly, moving to stand protectively near Issei. The real reason you came here. Kuroka's playful expression faded slightly, replaced by something more serious. I told you I sensed a new Nikomata and came to investigate. But yes, there's more to it than that. She stood and began pacing, her twin tails swaying behind her. Issei's awakening isn't going to go unnoticed. There are yokai factions that monitor these things, and when they realize a new male Nikomata has appeared, one with sacred gear and devil power to boot, they're going to take interest. What kind of interest? Rias asked warily. The uncomfortable kind, Kuroka said. Male Nikomata are rare, Rias Gremory. Less than 1 in 100 Nikomata births result in males, and most of them don't survive to adulthood. Those that do are considered extremely valuable for breeding purposes. Issei felt cold dread settling in his stomach. Breeding purposes? You're a genetic goldmine, Kuroka said bluntly. Strong Nikomata heritage, sacred gear, devil power, and apparently some very potent latent genetics given how complete your transformation was. There are yokai clans that would pay fortunes for the chance to add your bloodline to theirs. Some might even try to force the issue. Over my dead body, Koneko growled, her senjutsu flaring. That's the spirit, Chiron. Kuroka grinned, apparently pleased by her sister's protectiveness. But protecting him alone will be difficult. Which is why I'm proposing a temporary alliance. An alliance? Rias's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you offering? My knowledge, my protection, and my training, Kuroka listed. I teach Issei how to control his new abilities, help him navigate Nikomata politics and customs, and use my reputation to make it clear that he's under my protection. In exchange. She paused, her smile turning sly. I get to spend time with my little sister and this interesting new kitten you've acquired. That's it? Rias asked skeptically. You just want to spend time here? I'm lonely, Kuroka admitted with surprising honesty. Being a stray devil isn't as glamorous as people think. And besides, her eyes softened as she looked at Koneko. I've missed Chiron. Even if she hates me, I want to be near her. Kaneko's expression was conflicted, anger and longing warring on her face. Issei could sense her turmoil through their developing bond and found himself wanting to comfort her. I don't trust you, Koneko said finally. But Senpai needs help. Real help. And you're right that we don't have other options. So you'll accept my offer? Kuroka asked hopefully. Conditionally, Rias interjected before Koneko could respond. You'll be under constant supervision. You'll wear a monitoring bracelet that tracks your location. You'll provide intelligence on any threats to Issei from yokai factions. And if you betray us even once, the deal is off and I personally deliver you to the authorities. Are we clear? Kuroka considered the terms, then nodded. Fair enough. Though I should warn you, spending this much time around two unmated Nikomata who are clearly attracted to each other while mating season approaches is going to be interesting for me. What does that mean? Asia asked innocently. It means that Nikomata don't just respond to their own mating instincts, Kuroka explained with a wicked grin. We respond to others as well. Being around these two as their bond develops is going to affect me too. I might get a bit frisky. Absolutely not, Rias said firmly. If you're going to be here, you'll control yourself. I'll try, Kuroka promised, though her grin suggested she wasn't trying very hard. But instincts are instincts, Gremory. You can't completely suppress nature. Issei felt a headache coming on. His life had just gotten exponentially more complicated. Not only did he have new powers to control and instincts to manage, but now he had Kuroka, one of the most wanted criminals in the underworld, hanging around as his teacher. And apparently there was a mating season coming that was going to make everything worse. This is going to be a disaster, he muttered. Probably, Koneko agreed, moving closer to him. But we'll figure it out together, senpai. Despite everything, Issei found himself smiling. Whatever complications lay ahead, at least he wouldn't face them alone. He had his friends, his peerage, and now apparently a developing bond with Koneko that promised to become something significant. His new cat ears twitched as Drake's voice rumbled in his mind. Partner, your life was already complicated. This is just adding more spice to an already interesting pot. Thanks for the support, Drake. Anytime, partner. Though I have to admit, I'm curious to see how this develops. A red dragon emperor who's also a Nikomata? That's unprecedented. Issei looked around the room at all the people who were now part of this strange new situation. Rias, looking calculating as she planned how to manage the political fallout. Akino, grinning at the drama unfolding. Kiba, supportive as always. Asia, worried but determined. Gasper, confused but loyal. Kuroka, mysterious and dangerous and possibly helpful. And Koneko, fierce and protective and connected to him in ways he was only beginning to understand. All right, he said, drawing everyone's attention. I don't fully understand what's happening to me, and I definitely don't know how to handle all this Nikomata stuff. But I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to trust that we can figure this out together. That's the spirit. Kuroka cheered. Now, let's start with the basics. First lesson: how to properly groom your new tail. As Kuroka launched into an explanation of Nikomata hygiene that was far more detailed than Issei ever wanted to know, he caught Kaneko's eye. She gave him a small, encouraging nod, and he felt their bond warm with shared determination. Whatever happened next, whatever challenges his new heritage brought, they'd face it together. Even if it meant dealing with mating season, possessive instincts, and a wanted criminal teaching him how to be a proper cat. His life had definitely gotten a lot more interesting. And somewhere in the back of his mind, underneath all the worry and confusion, Issei found himself looking forward to discovering what this new chapter would bring. The morning after Issei's transformation, he woke up to find himself in a position that would have thrilled his perverted heart under normal circumstances, but now just confused him. Koneko was curled up against his side, her small body pressed close to his, one arm draped possessively across his chest. Her white cat ears twitched occasionally in her sleep, and a soft purring sound emanated from her throat. More alarmingly, Issei discovered his own tail had wrapped around her waist at some point during the night, holding her close. His new cat ears were flattened against his head in what he instinctively recognized as a contented position. When had she even come into his room? "Good morning, kitten," came an amused voice from the doorway. Kuroka leaned against the frame, her expression somewhere between entertained and knowing. Looks like the bonding instincts kicked in faster than expected. Nikomata prefer to sleep in prides, especially when forming new bonds. Issei tried to sit up without disturbing Koneko, but the moment he moved, her eyes snapped open, those distinctive golden orbs immediately focusing on him with an intensity that made his heart skip. "Senpai," she murmured, seeming completely unbothered by their position. "You smell good in the morning." Thanks?" Issei managed, his face heating up. "Not to be rude, but when did you come in here?" "Around 3 a.m., Koneko said matter-of-factly, still not moving away from him. "You were restless. Having trouble controlling your new senses. I helped calm you down." She paused, a hint of pink coloring her cheeks. "And I wanted to be close to you." "How honest of you, Chiron," Kuroka purred, entering the room fully. "Though I should warn you both, this is just the beginning. The bonding instincts will only get stronger from here." Issei finally managed to extricate himself from the bed, his new tail swishing behind him in agitation. Looking down, he realized with horror that he'd fallen asleep in just his boxers, his newly acquired cat ears flattened in embarrassment. "Don't worry about modesty," Kuroka said with a wave of her hand. "Nikomata are much less concerned with such things than humans or devils. We're comfortable in our bodies." She demonstrated this by stretching languidly, her own generous curves on full display in her revealing kimono. "One-sama," Koneko said warningly, finally sitting up. You're making Senpai uncomfortable, am I? Kuroka's eyes gleamed with mischief. Or is he just not used to his new instincts yet? Tell me, Issei, what do you feel when you look at me? At Chiron? Issei wanted to deflect, but he found himself answering honestly. It's weird. I can sense you both differently now. It's not just seeing you, I can smell your individual sense, hear your heartbeats, feel your spiritual energy. And there's this pull. He struggled to articulate it. Like I'm aware of you both on a level I've never experienced before. That's your Nikomata instincts awakening, Kuroka explained, her tone becoming more instructional. We're social creatures despite our reputation for independence. We're aware of our pride members constantly, attuned to their emotional states, their health, their needs. Her smile turned sly. And their desires. I'm taking a shower, Issei announced, grabbing some clothes and fleeing to the bathroom before the conversation could get any more awkward. Under the hot spray, he examined his new features more carefully. The cat ears were permanent, it seemed, twitching in response to sounds he was still learning to filter. His tail was surprisingly expressive, he could move it consciously, but it also seemed to react to his emotions automatically. The claws were retractable, which was a relief. He didn't want to accidentally scratch someone, but the most dramatic change was internal. He could feel the yuki flowing through his body alongside his demonic power and Drake's draconic energy. The three power sources coexisted but felt distinct, like three different colored streams flowing through the same river. Partner, we need to talk, Drake's voice rumbled in his mind. Now? Can it wait until I'm dressed? This is important. Your transformation has affected me as well. The boosted gear is evolving in response to your new heritage. Issei looked down at his left arm where the sacred gear resided. Even in its dormant state, he could see subtle changes. The red gauntlet now had golden accents that resembled feline features, and he could swear the green gem pulsed with a slightly different rhythm. Is that bad? Unknown, Drake admitted. But I can feel new abilities developing. Your draconic power is merging with your yuki in interesting ways. We'll need to test this carefully. Great. Just what he needed, more complications. When Issei emerged from the bathroom fully dressed, he found his room had been invaded. Koneko sat on his bed, munching on cookies. Kuroka had made herself comfortable in his desk chair. And surprisingly, Rias was there as well, looking exhausted but determined. We need to talk about your training schedule, Rias said without preamble. Kuroka has outlined what you'll need to learn, and it's extensive. How extensive? Issei asked warily. Kuroka pulled out a list, an actual physical list that was several pages long. Basic yuki manipulation, scent recognition and tracking, enhanced combat techniques utilizing your new agility, proper grooming and maintenance of your new features, Nikomata social customs and hierarchy, territorial behavior management, hunting instincts control, mating season preparation. Okay, that's enough, Rias interrupted, pinching the bridge of her nose. We'll start with the basics. Yuki manipulation and combat techniques. The more personal aspects can wait. Can they though? Kuroka asked seriously. Mating season is less than 2 months away. If Issei doesn't have proper control by then, things could get dangerous. For him and for anyone around him. What exactly happens during mating season? Issei asked, dreading the answer. Kuroka and Koneko exchanged looks. Finally, Koneko spoke. Heightened aggression, especially toward potential rivals. Increased territorial behavior, you'll want to mark your space and defend it. Enhanced physical abilities but decreased rational thinking. And she trailed off, her cheeks reddening. And an overwhelming drive to mate, Kuroka finished bluntly. Your body will be screaming at you to find a partner and claim them. It's not something you can just ignore or suppress, especially during your first cycle. Fantastic, Issei muttered. And there's no way to just not go through this? Suppressing it completely is dangerous, Kuroka said. Nikomata who try to fight their nature too much can lose control violently. It's better to learn to channel and manage the instincts rather than deny them entirely. Rias sighed. All right. Kuroka, you'll handle Issei's Nikomata training. But I'm assigning Koneko to assist and supervise. And we'll have regular check-ins to monitor his progress. She fixed Kuroka with a stern look. Any inappropriate behavior, and you're out. Clear, Crystal, Kuroka said with a grin that suggested she had her own interpretation of inappropriate. The next few weeks fell into a new routine. Mornings were spent on regular schoolwork, and raiding game training with the peerage. Afternoons and evenings, however, were dedicated to Issei's Nikomata education. Kuroka proved to be a demanding but effective teacher. She started with the basics, teaching Issei how to consciously control his yuki flow, how to enhance his physical abilities with spiritual energy, how to retract and extend his claws at will. Yuki is different from demonic power, Kuroka explained during one session. Demonic power is about raw force and destruction. Yuki is more subtle, more flexible. It's about harmony with natural energy. She demonstrated by channeling her yuki into a visible aura around her hands. Watch closely. Feel how the energy flows, how it responds to intent rather than force. Issei tried to mimic her, focusing on the yuki he could feel within himself. Slowly, a golden aura began to form around his hands, flickering uncertainly. Good, Kuroka praised. Now try to maintain it while moving. That proved harder. The moment Issei tried to move, the aura dispersed. It took dozens of attempts before he could walk while maintaining the yuki enhancement. Koneko watched these sessions closely, occasionally offering advice but mostly just watching him. Issei had become increasingly aware of her presence, of how she positioned herself near him constantly, of the way her scent seemed to be everywhere he went. She's scent marking you, Kuroka explained when Issei finally asked about it. Rubbing against you, leaving her scent on your belongings, making sure other Nikomata know you're claimed. Claimed? Issei's tail bushed out in surprise. I didn't agree to be claimed. You don't have to consciously agree, Kuroka said with amusement. Your instincts are responding to hers. Haven't you noticed you're doing the same thing? Leaving your scent on her, positioning yourself between her and potential threats, growling when other males get too close. Issei thought back over the past few weeks and realized with embarrassment that Kuroka was right. He'd unconsciously started sitting closer to Koneko during meetings, had growled at Kiba more than once when the night got too friendly, had even caught himself rubbing his cheek against Kaneko's hair. This is so weird, Issei groaned. It's natural, Kuroka corrected. You're forming a pride bond. It's actually quite beautiful when you stop fighting it. Her expression turned more serious. Though I should warn you, the bond between you two is developing faster and stronger than typical. That's going to make mating season even more intense. The combat training was equally challenging but more familiar territory. Kuroka taught him how to use his enhanced agility and reflexes, how to strike with his claws effectively, how to use his tail for balance during complex maneuvers. Nikomata combat is about speed and precision, Kuroka demonstrated, moving through a series of strikes so fast Issei could barely track them. We're not about overwhelming force like dragons or raw destruction like devils. We're about finding the perfect opening and exploiting it. She turned to him expectantly. Now you try. Come at me with everything you've got. Issei hesitated. Even with his new abilities, Kuroka was an SS-class criminal for a reason. But she just grinned and beckoned him forward. He attacked, using his boosted gear to enhance his speed and strength. But Kuroka flowed around his strikes like water, never where his attacks landed, always moving to his blind spots. Within seconds she had him pinned to the ground with one hand, her face inches from his. Too much reliance on power, not enough on technique, she purred. Again. They repeated the exercise dozens of times. Slowly, painfully, Issei began to incorporate his new feline reflexes into his fighting style. His movements became more fluid, less predictable. He started using his tail for balance during spins and dodges. His enhanced senses let him track Kuroka's movements better. Koneko joined in the training sometimes, and Issei found fighting alongside her came naturally. They moved in sync without needing to communicate, each covering the other's blind spots instinctively. Their developing bond translated into perfect combat coordination. You two are disgustingly in tune, Kuroka observed during one such session. It took me and my first partner years to develop that kind of coordination. You've managed it in weeks. Is that unusual? Koneko asked, panting slightly from the exercise. Very, Kuroka confirmed. The bond between you two is special. Powerful. Her expression became uncharacteristically serious. Which is why you need to be careful. Bonds this strong can be wonderful, but they can also be overwhelming if not properly managed. As the weeks progressed, Issei noticed other changes. His diet had shifted. He found himself craving fish and raw meat more than cooked food. His sleep schedule had adjusted to match Koniko's, and he'd wake up whenever she did regardless of the time. He'd developed an almost compulsive need to know where she was, becoming restless when they were separated for too long. The most dramatic change came one evening during a peerage meeting. A visiting devil noble made a disparaging comment about Koneko, something about stray cats knowing their place. Before Issei consciously registered what was happening, he was on his feet, his yuki flaring violently, a snarl tearing from his throat. "Say that again," Issei growled, his voice carrying a dangerous edge he'd never heard from himself before. "I dare you." The noble paled and backpedaled rapidly. Rias had to physically restrain Issei, while Koneko calmed him with gentle touches and soothing words. "Protective instincts," Kuroka explained later. "Very normal for bonded Nikomata. You'll become extremely aggressive toward anyone who threatens your pride members." She paused, though that was a particularly strong reaction. "You nearly lost control. Is that going to keep happening?" Issei asked, disturbed by how easily he'd snapped. "Probably until you learn better control," Kuroka said. "Especially as mating season approaches. Your instincts will become harder to suppress." She looked between him and Koneko thoughtfully. "Which brings us to a topic we need to discuss. The claiming." "The what?" Issei and Koneko asked simultaneously. Kuroka settled into her teaching posture. "When two Nikomata form a strong bond and decide to make it permanent, there's a claiming ritual. It involves an exchange of yuki and physical intimacy. Once complete, you're bonded for life. You'll be able to sense each other across any distance, share strength in battle, and be recognized as mates by all Nikomata." "Mates," Issei repeated, his face burning. As in lovers, partners, life companions," Kuroka confirmed. "It's serious, permanent, and not to be entered into lightly." She looked at them both carefully. "Given how strong your bond is already, you're going to face pressure to complete the claiming during mating season. Your instincts will push you toward it hard. What if we don't want to?" Koneko asked quietly. "Then you fight the instincts and risk losing control, or you complete a partial bonding which satisfies some urges but leaves the permanent bond incomplete," Kuroka explained. "But I'll be honest, given what I'm sensing between you two, trying to resist the full claiming during mating season is going to be nearly impossible." Issei and Koneko exchanged looks. The air between them felt heavy with unspoken questions and unexplored feelings. "We don't have to decide now," Issei said finally. "Let's just focus on getting through the training and see where things go." Koneko nodded, but Issei could sense her disappointment through their bond. She wanted more clarity, wanted to know where they stood. And honestly, so did he. But this was all happening so fast, and he needed time to process. That night, Issei found himself unable to sleep despite his exhaustion. His new instincts were at war with his rational mind. Part of him wanted to go to Koneko's room, to hold her close, to let the bond develop naturally. Another part was terrified of moving too fast, of making a permanent decision before he fully understood what he was getting into. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Before he could answer, Kuroka slipped inside, closing the door behind her. "Can't sleep either?" she asked, settling onto the edge of his bed uninvited. "Too much on my mind," Issei admitted. Kuroka was quiet for a moment, her expression unusually contemplative. "Can I tell you something, Issei? Something I haven't told anyone else?" "Sure." "Watching you and Chiron, it hurts," Kuroka said softly. "Not in a jealous way, but in a lonely way. I had a bond once, with my former master, before everything went wrong, before I had to kill him to survive. I know what it's like to have that connection, and I know what it's like to lose it." She looked at him with genuine emotion in her eyes. "Don't waste this, Issei. Don't let fear or overthinking rob you of something beautiful. Chiron is my precious little sister, and you're becoming important to me too. The bond you two are building is rare and special. Don't throw it away because you're scared." "I'm not throwing it away," Issei protested. I'm just trying to be careful. To make sure we're doing this right. There is no right way, Kuroka said. There's only honest and dishonest. Your instincts are pulling you toward Chiron because on a fundamental level, you're compatible. Your souls recognize each other. That's not something to fear or fight. She stood to leave, but paused at the door. Mating season starts in 3 weeks. By then, you need to decide what you want, because once it hits, your instincts will make the decision for you if you haven't made it consciously. After she left, Issei lay in the dark, thinking about her words. His tail curled around a pillow that smelled like Koneko. When had she left that here? And he found the scent comforting. Maybe Kuroka was right. Maybe he was overthinking this. His phone buzzed with a text from Koneko. Can't sleep. Thinking about you. Issei's heart raced as he typed back. Same here. Want company? The response was immediate, yes. He found Koneko waiting in the hallway, looking uncertain in her pajamas. Without words, they went to her room and settled into her bed together. It wasn't sexual, wasn't even particularly romantic. It was just right. Two Nikomata seeking comfort in their pride mate's presence. Senpai, Koneko murmured as they lay facing each other. I don't want to pressure you. But I need you to know for me, this bond isn't just instinct. I care about you. Have cared about you for a long time. I care about you too, Issei said honestly. I'm just scared of messing this up. Of moving too fast and ruining something important. Then we'll go slow, Koneko said. But we go together. No more overthinking alone. Deal? Deal, Issei agreed. They fell asleep like that, curled together, their tails intertwined. And for the first time since his transformation, Issei slept peacefully, his instincts satisfied by Kaneko's presence. Outside the door, Kuroka smiled to herself before heading to her own room. The bond between those two was developing beautifully. Now she just had to make sure they both survived what was coming, because mating season was approaching, and with it, challenges that would test everything they were building, but she had faith in them. They were strong individually and stronger together, and if she was being honest with herself, watching their bond develop was awakening something in her too. A longing for connection she'd thought dead after her master's betrayal. Perhaps, in protecting these two young Nikomata, she might find her own path to healing. Time would tell. The training grounds of the Occult Research Club had seen better days. Scorch marks from Risa's power of destruction scarred the earth, craters from Kaneko's enhanced strikes dotted the landscape, and now, deep claw marks gouged into trees and stone marked Issei's progress in controlling his Nikomata abilities. 3 weeks had passed since Kuroka's warning about mating season, and the tension in the air was palpable. Issei stood in the center of the grounds, his breathing steady despite the intense sparring session he just finished with Kuroka. Sweat dampened his hair and clothes, his cat ears pressed flat against his head in concentration. Around him, golden Yuki flickered like flames, steady now where it had once been erratic. Better, Kuroka acknowledged, circling him with an appraising eye. Your control has improved dramatically. You're starting to blend your Yuki with your demonic power naturally instead of treating them as separate sources. It's getting easier, Issei admitted, allowing his aura to dissipate. Everything feels less overwhelming now. The enhanced senses, the instincts, I'm learning to work with them instead of fighting them. Good. Kuroka's expression turned more serious. Because we're running out of time. Mating season begins in less than a week. As if to emphasize her point, Issei felt a sudden surge of heat course through his body. His senses sharpened even further, and he became hyper-aware of every scent on the wind. Kaneko's vanilla fragrance carried from the clubhouse, and his body responded immediately, heart rate increasing, pupils dilating, a low rumble building in his chest. And there it is, Kuroka observed. The preliminary symptoms. Tell me what you're feeling. Issei forced himself to focus past the instinctive pull toward Kaneko's scent. Heat. Restlessness. An urge to find her and make sure she's close. Normal, Kuroka confirmed. It's going to get stronger every day until the season peaks. Your body is preparing for the mating cycle. She moved closer, studying his reaction. How's your aggression? Any urges toward violence? Not right now, Issei said. But yesterday, when that guy from the student council talked to Koneko-chan, I wanted to rip his throat out. Also normal, unfortunately. Kuroka sighed. Territorial aggression is part of the package. You'll need to maintain strict control, especially around other males who approach your bonded mate. She's not my mate yet, Issei protested, though the words felt wrong even as he said them. Everything in him screamed that Koneko was his, that their bond was already complete even if they hadn't formalized it through the claiming ritual. Semantics, Kuroka dismissed. Your instincts don't care about formalities. To your Nikomata side, Chiron is already yours, and you are hers. The claiming would just make it official. She settled onto a nearby bench, patting the space beside her. Issei joined her, grateful for the chance to rest. His tail curled around his waist unconsciously, a self-soothing gesture he'd developed. We need to talk about what happens during the actual season, Kuroka said. And I need complete honesty from you. No embarrassment, no deflection. This is too important. Issei nodded, steeling himself. Over the past weeks, he'd grown more comfortable with Kuroka's blunt approach to sensitive topics. She didn't mince words, but she also didn't judge. During the peak of mating season, your rational mind will be significantly compromised, Kuroka began. You'll be driven almost entirely by instinct. The urge to claim a mate will be overwhelming, bordering on painful if resisted. Your aggression will spike, your territorial behavior will become extreme, and you'll be hypersensitive to any perceived threats to your chosen mate. That sounds dangerous, Issei said quietly. It can be, Kuroka admitted. Which is why Nikomata typically isolate during their season, either alone or with their chosen mate. Being around others while in that state is risky. She paused. But isolation isn't always the answer either. Without an outlet for the mating drive, the aggression can turn inward, leading to self-harm, or a complete loss of control. So what are my options? Issei asked, already dreading the answer. Essentially 3, Kuroka held up her fingers. 1. Complete the claiming with Chiron. Your bond is strong enough, you're clearly compatible, and it would satisfy all your instincts safely. 2. Engage in a partial bonding physical intimacy without the permanent Yuki exchange. It would ease some symptoms but leave you both in a complicated limbo state. 3. Try to suppress everything through isolation and sheer willpower, which I strongly advise against. Issei was quiet, processing. His logical mind knew that completing the claiming made the most sense. He cared deeply for Koneko, their bond was already forming naturally, and his instincts were screaming at him to make it permanent. But the human part of him that still existed worried about the permanence, about whether they were truly ready for such a commitment. What do you think I should do? He asked. Kuroka's expression softened. I think you should talk to Chiron. Honestly. About what you both want, what you're comfortable with, what you're afraid of. She reached over and flicked one of his cat ears playfully. You're both overthinking this, you know. Your bond is already there. The claiming would just be acknowledging what already exists. Is it always this complicated? Issei asked. Bonds? Yes and no. Kuroka gazed out over the training grounds. Some Nikomata meet and claim each other within days, driven purely by instinct. Others court for years before making it official. There's no right timeline. She looked back at him. But in your case, with mating season approaching and a bond already this strong, you don't have the luxury of years. You need to decide soon. The clubhouse door opened, and Koneko emerged, carrying a tray with drinks. Issei's attention immediately zeroed in on her, his enhanced vision tracking every detail, the way her white hair caught the sunlight, the graceful fluidity of her movements, the slight smile that touched her lips when she saw him watching. Their eyes met across the distance, and Issei felt the bond between them pulse with warmth. Kaneko's ears twitched, and he knew she felt it too. I brought refreshments, Koneko announced, setting the tray down. Bucho says we need a break before the afternoon planning session. Perfect timing, Kuroka said, grabbing a drink. I need to check in with my contacts anyway. You two enjoy your break. She stood and stretched, her twin tails swishing. And maybe have that talk I mentioned. She departed with a knowing grin, leaving Issei and Koneko alone in the training grounds. The air between them felt heavy with unspoken words and unexplored feelings. Senpai, Koneko said softly, settling beside him on the bench. Close enough that their shoulders touched, sending pleasant tingles through Issei's new sensory network. One-sama is right. We need to talk. I know, Issei agreed. I've been avoiding it because I'm scared of saying the wrong thing. Me too. Kaniko's hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. But we can't keep avoiding it. The season is coming, and we need to know where we stand. Issei took a deep breath, gathering his courage. Okay. Honest conversation. No deflecting. He turned to face her fully. Kaniko-chan, what do you want? From me, from this bond, from everything? Koneko was quiet for a long moment, her golden eyes studying his face. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I want you. As my mate, my partner, my pride. She squeezed his hand. I've wanted that for a while now, even before your transformation. But after the bond started forming, that want became a need. Being near you feels right in a way nothing else ever has. Her cheeks flushed pink, but she continued. I know it's fast. I know it's probably crazy. But Nikomata don't do things halfway, senpai. When we commit, it's completely. And I'm ready to commit to you if you'll have me. Issei's heart hammered in his chest. Hearing her say it so plainly, so honestly, made his own feelings crystallize. I want that too, he admitted. I'm terrified of messing it up, of not being good enough, of all the ways this could go wrong. But when I'm with you, all those fears seem smaller. Manageable. He reached up with his free hand to cup her cheek. You make me want to be better. Stronger. Not just for fighting, but as a person. And the thought of being bonded to you, of making this permanent, it doesn't scare me as much as the thought of not having that. Koneko leaned into his touch, her eyes shining with emotion. So we're doing this? The claiming? If you're sure, Issei said. I don't want you to feel pressured because of the season or the instincts. This needs to be what you truly want. I've never been more sure of anything, Koneko assured him. She moved closer, close enough that he could feel her breath on his lips. Claim me, senpai. Make me yours officially. Please. The last word came out almost as a plea, and something in Issei snapped. The careful control he'd been maintaining dissolved as his instincts surged forward. He closed the distance between them, capturing her lips in a kiss that was equal parts desperate and tender. Koneko responded immediately, her arms wrapping around his neck as she pressed closer. The bond between them flared brilliantly, their yuki intermingling and resonating in harmony. It was like nothing Issei had ever experienced, not just physical pleasure, but a spiritual connection that went soul deep. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Issei could feel the fundamental shift in their relationship. The bond was stronger now, more defined, heading toward completion. We should tell the others, Koneko said, though she made no move to pull away from him. They'll need to prepare for the claiming ceremony. Ceremony? Issei asked. Traditional Nikomata claiming involves witnesses and rituals, Koneko explained. To make it official in the eyes of yokai society. One-sama will know what's required. They gathered themselves and headed back to the clubhouse hand in hand. Inside, they found the full peerage assembled along with Kuroka, who looked entirely too pleased with herself. Took you long enough, Kuroka said cheerfully. I could feel your bond resonating from here. I take it you made a decision? We're going through with the claiming, Issei announced, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Before mating season peaks, Ria studied them both carefully. Are you certain? This is permanent, Issei. Once completed, the bond can't be undone. I'm certain, Issei confirmed. Koneko nodded beside him, her hand tightening on his. Then we have preparations to make, Ria said, shifting into planning mode. Kuroka, what's required for a proper claiming ceremony? Kuroka's expression became more serious. First, we need a suitable location somewhere with strong natural energy that won't be disturbed. The ceremony itself takes several hours and involves both public and private components. Public components? Asia asked timidly. The initial bonding is witnessed by their pride and close allies, Kuroka explained. There's an exchange of yuki, marking rituals, declarations of commitment. Think of it like a wedding ceremony. She paused. The final consummation is private, of course, but it's the most important part. That's when the permanent soul bond is forged. Issei felt his face burning. Talking about the physical aspects so clinically was embarrassing, even if it was necessary. How soon can this be arranged? Kiba asked. It should be done within the next 3 days, Kuroka said. Any later and Issei's mating season will have progressed too far. He needs to be able to maintain rational thought during the ceremony. 3 days, Rias repeated. That's barely enough time to prepare properly. It'll have to be enough, Kuroka said firmly. Unless you want to risk Issei losing control during the peak of his season. Trust me, you don't want that. The room erupted into planning. Rias coordinated with her brother Surzex for permission to use a protected area in the underworld. Akino began preparing the necessary ritual components. Kiba offered to handle security to ensure they wouldn't be disturbed. Asia, bless her innocent heart, offered to help however she could despite barely understanding what was happening. Through it all, Issei and Koneko remained close, their bond humming with anticipation and nervous energy. This was really happening. In 3 days they would be permanently bonded. Nervous? Koneko asked quietly during a lull in the planning. Terrified, Issei admitted. But also excited. Is that weird? No, Koneko said with a small smile. I feel the same way. That evening, after the initial planning had concluded, Kuroka pulled Issei aside for a private conversation. They walked through the school grounds, the setting sun painting everything in shades of orange and gold. There's something I need to tell you, Kuroka said, uncharacteristically hesitant. About the claiming and what comes after. What about it? Issei asked. Completing the bond with Chiron is going to change things, Kuroka said carefully. Not just for you two, but for me as well. How so? Kuroka stopped walking and turned to face him fully. I told you that Nikomata respond to each other's mating instincts. Once you and Chiron complete your bond, you'll have established a mated pair. She paused, seeming to wrestle with her words. Nikomata prides sometimes expand beyond just a single pair. It's not common, but it's not unheard of either. Understanding dawned on Issei. You want to join our pride. Want is a strong word, Kuroka said, though her expression betrayed her. But my instincts are drawn to what you and Chiron have. The bond, the connection, the sense of belonging. She looked away. I've been alone for a long time, Issei. Watching you two has made me realize how much I miss having that. Does Koneko-chan know about this? Issei asked. Not yet, Kuroka admitted. I wanted to talk to you first. Get your feelings on it before I approach Chiron. She looked back at him. I'm not asking you to make a decision now. The claiming with Chiron is what's important. But afterward, if you're both open to it, I'd like to discuss the possibility of joining your pride properly. Issei's mind reeled. He was still processing the idea of being permanently bonded to Koneko, and now Kuroka was suggesting she might want to join them. It was overwhelming. That's a lot to take in, he said honestly. I know, Kuroka said. Which is why I'm telling you now, so you have time to think about it. There's no pressure, no expectation. But it's something to consider for the future. They walked back in silence, Issei's thoughts churning. He needed to talk to Koneko about this, to get her perspective. But that conversation could wait until after the claiming ceremony, one massive life change at a time. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Rias secured permission to use an ancient shrine deep in the underworld forests, a place heavy with natural yuki and protected by powerful barriers. Akino gathered the necessary ritual components, special incense made from yokai herbs, ceremonial sake blessed by shrine maidens, silk cords for the binding ceremony. Koneko worked with Kuroka on the specific rites and traditions, learning the words and gestures that had been passed down through Nikomata generations. Issei, meanwhile, tried to manage his increasingly intense symptoms as mating season approached its peak. The restlessness was constant now. His body felt like it was vibrating with pent-up energy. His senses had sharpened to an almost painful degree. He could track Kaneko's location anywhere in the school by scent alone, could hear her heartbeat from rooms away, could sense the subtle shifts in her emotional state through their developing bond. The aggression was harder to manage. Every male who came within 10 feet of Koneko triggered an instinctive territorial response. Issei had to physically restrain himself from attacking Kiba during a routine training session when the knight got too close to Koneko. Even Gasper, sweet harmless Gasper, earned a warning growl when he accidentally bumped into her in the hallway. It's getting worse, Issei confessed to Kuroka during their final preparation session. I can barely control it anymore. That's normal, Kuroka assured him, though she kept a careful distance. Your instincts know the claiming is coming, so they're pushing harder. You just need to hold on for one more day. What if I lose control during the ceremony? Issei worried. What if I hurt someone? You won't, Kuroka said with confidence. Once the claiming begins, your instincts will focus entirely on Chiron. Everyone else will essentially cease to exist for you. She smiled. Trust in your bond. It'll guide you through. The night before the ceremony, Issei found himself unable to sleep despite his exhaustion. He lay in his bed, every sense on high alert, his body practically vibrating with anticipation and need. The urge to go to Koniko's room was nearly overwhelming, but he resisted. They'd agreed to spend the night apart, to make the claiming that much more significant. A soft knock on his door made his ears perk up. Before he could respond, the door opened to reveal Kuroka, dressed in a simple sleeping yukata. Can't sleep either? She asked, inviting herself in and closing the door behind her. Too wound up, Issei admitted. My body knows what's coming tomorrow, and it's driving me crazy. Kuroka settled on the floor beside his bed, her expression sympathetic. The night before a claiming is always difficult. Your instincts are at their peak, but you have to maintain control just a little longer. They sat in comfortable silence for a while before Kuroka spoke again. Can I tell you a story? About my own claiming? Issei nodded, curious. Kuroka rarely spoke about her past in detail. I was young when I met him, Kuroka began, her voice soft with memory. My first master, before everything went wrong. He was kind to me, treated me like a person rather than a tool. We formed a bond naturally, without either of us really planning for it. She smiled sadly. The claiming was beautiful. Traditional ceremony, witnessed by his household, everything done properly. Her expression darkened. But I was too young, too inexperienced to understand what I was getting into. The permanent bond meant I could feel everything he felt, including his darker urges, his cruel intentions toward others, his plan to use me as a breeding tool. She looked at Issei directly. I tell you this not to scare you, but to emphasize how important it is that you and Chiron are going into this with clear communication and honest intentions. A claiming bond is forever. You'll be linked on a fundamental level. Make sure you're both ready for that. We are, Issei said firmly. Koneko-chan and I, we've talked about everything. What we want, what we're afraid of, what we expect from each other. We're as ready as we can be. Good, Kuroka said, satisfied. Then tomorrow will be perfect. She stood to leave, then hesitated. Issei? Thank you. For what? For giving Chiron a real bond, a healthy one. For being someone worthy of her trust. Kuroka's eyes were bright with emotion. She's my precious little sister. Knowing she'll be with someone who genuinely cares for her, it means everything. After she left, Issei finally felt some of his anxiety ease. Tomorrow would be intense, possibly overwhelming, but it would also be right. He and Koneko were meant for this bond. Everything else was just details. He finally drifted off to sleep, his dreams filled with golden eyes and the promise of tomorrow. The morning of the claiming ceremony arrived with brilliant sunshine that felt almost mocking given how nervous Issei felt. He dressed in the traditional garments Kuroka had prepared, a formal hakama in deep crimson with gold accents, designed to accommodate his tail comfortably. His hands shook as he tried to tie the obi properly. After the third failed attempt, Kiba quietly stepped in to help. Nervous? The knight asked with a gentle smile. Terrified, Issei admitted. What if I mess something up? You won't, Kiba assured him. Just focus on Koneko. Everything else will fall into place. The peerage gathered to travel to the ceremony site together. Rias looked regal in a formal dress, Akino elegant in traditional shrine maiden attire. Even Asia had dressed up, looking adorable in a simple kimono that Koneko had helped her choose. But all of Issei's attention was captured by Koneko when she emerged from her preparation room. She wore a pristine white kimono embroidered with silver thread that caught the light beautifully. Her white hair was styled elaborately, decorated with small crystal ornaments. Her golden eyes shone with emotion as she met Issei's gaze across the room. Their bond resonated powerfully, and Issei felt his nervousness transform into certainty. This was right. This was meant to be. Ready? Koneko asked softly when she reached him. Ready, Issei confirmed, taking her hand. Together, they stepped through the transportation circle Rias had prepared, heading toward their future. The shrine was everything Kuroka had promised, ancient and powerful, nestled in a clearing surrounded by massive trees that hummed with yuki. A small stream burbled nearby, and the air itself felt charged with spiritual energy. Kuroka stood at the shrine's entrance, dressed formally in an elaborate kimono that marked her role as the ceremony's guide. Behind her, the shrine had been prepared with ritual items, incense burning in ceremonial holders, sake cups arranged on a low table, silk cords and gold and silver laid out carefully. Welcome, Kuroka said formally, her usual playfulness replaced by solemn dignity. We gather here to witness and bless the claiming bond between Issei Hayadu and Koneko Tuju. Let all present bear witness to the commitment these two make to each other, and to the pride they form this day. Issei and Koneko approached the shrine together, their hands still joined. The watching peerage formed a semicircle behind them, their pride witnesses, their chosen family. Issei Hayadu, Kuroka began, do you come here of your own will, with clear mind and honest heart, seeking to claim Koneko Tuju as your mate? I do, Issei said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Koneko Tuju, do you come here of your own will, with clear mind and honest heart, seeking to be claimed by Issei Hayadu as his mate? I do, Koneko confirmed, squeezing Issei's hand. Then let the ceremony begin, Kuroka declared. What followed was both beautiful and intense. Kuroka guided them through the traditional rites, the exchange of sake that symbolized sharing of life, the binding of their wrists with silk cords representing their joining, the marking ritual where they each placed their scent on the other in specific patterns. But the most powerful moment came when Kuroka instructed them to exchange yuki directly. This is the true beginning of your bond, Kuroka explained. Open yourselves to each other completely. Hold nothing back. Let your energies merge and harmonize. Issei faced Koneko fully, their bound hands between them. He could feel his yuki swirling within him, golden and eager. Koneko's silver-white energy responded, reaching out toward his. They released their yuki simultaneously, and the two energies collided in a spectacular display. Gold and silver intertwined, spiraling around each other in increasingly complex patterns. Issei gasped as he felt Koneko's energy enter him, felt her emotions and thoughts wash through his mind. Love, trust, devotion, home, and he felt his own energy being absorbed by her, carrying his feelings in return. Protection, commitment, belonging. Forever. The energies merged completely, gold and silver becoming one unified aura that surrounded them both. Their bond solidified into something unbreakable, eternal. Issei could feel Koneko in his mind, in his soul, in every fiber of his being. The bond is forged, Kuroka announced, her voice thick with emotion. Before these witnesses, Issei Hayadu and Koneko Tuju are now claimed mates, bound in spirit and soul. What has been joined here today, let no force separate. The watching peerage erupted into applause. Rias wiped tears from her eyes. Akino beamed with joy. Even stoic Kiba looked moved by what he'd witnessed, but Issei barely registered any of it. His entire awareness was focused on Koneko, on the bond thrumming between them, on the absolute certainty that this was where he belonged. There's one more part, Kuroka said quietly, for there is only the physical consummation. That happens in private, in the shrine's inner chamber. It's what will complete the soul bond permanently. She gestured toward a doorway at the back of the shrine. Take your time. There's no rush. Let your instincts guide you. Issei and Koneko exchanged glances, then moved together toward the inner chamber. The door closed behind them, sealing them away from the world. The chamber was simple but beautiful. Tatami mats covered the floor, soft light filtered through paper screens, and a futon had been prepared in the center. The air was heavy with the scent of incense, and something else, something primal and intoxicating. Are you ready? Issei asked softly, his hands trembling slightly as he reached for Koneko. I've been ready, Koneko said, stepping into his embrace. Claim me, mate. Make me completely yours. Her words triggered something deep in Issei's instincts. The careful control he'd been maintaining shattered as his Nikomatan nature surged forward. He pulled Koneko close, inhaling her scent, marking her with his own. What followed was intense, primal, and deeply intimate. Their bodies came together with an urgency driven by instinct but tempered by genuine care and affection. Issei was gentle despite his driving need, attentive to Kaneko's responses, letting the bond guide him in pleasuring his mate. And when they finally joined completely, when their souls merged in that final, permanent way, the sensation was transcendent. Issei felt his consciousness expand to include Kaneko's, felt their thoughts and emotions become one unified whole. The bond solidified into something diamond hard and eternal, impossible to break. Mine, his instincts purred with satisfaction. Mate. Pride. Forever. Yours, Kaneko's thoughts echoed back. Always. Completely. They collapsed together afterward, exhausted but euphoric, their bodies still intertwined and their bond singing with contentment. Issei's tail wrapped around Kaneko's waist, and her smaller tail intertwined with his. Their cat ears pressed together as they held each other close. I love you, Issei murmured, the words feeling inadequate for the depth of what he felt through their bond. I love you too, Koneko responded, her voice thick with emotion. My mate. My pride. My home. They drifted into satisfied sleep, their bond complete, their future together assured. Outside the chamber, the peerage celebrated quietly, respecting the privacy of the newly bonded mates. Kuroka watched the sealed door with a mixture of happiness and longing. Her sister had found her forever home. Now it was time for Kuroka to figure out if there was a place for her in that home too. But that was a question for another day. For now, she simply rejoiced that two people she cared about had found the happiness they deserved.